Hello, 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 everyone. This is Nammernan, and pardon my voice, I am recovering from a cold, so my voice will be a bit worse than it usually is. But don't worry, I should still be able to do this video today. So just give me a quick moment. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so as I mentioned in the previous video, I was going to be doing a challenge called Low Tier Type Gaming, which basically means that I was going to try and hit the 1600s by using just low tier types. Now, those low tier types were determined by this recent tier list that was posted by Ethereal Sword. And generally what is agreed on between these two tier lists is the lower tier types, so I thought it'd be a fun little challenge to just use this selection of types. It's still like a good amount of types. It's nearly half the types in the game, and use these types to try and climb to a higher rank and ladder. It's been shown to be doable before. For example, Wafflecopter with his psychic team was able to do it. I've also seen Altrink as well use Bug to very high success in the ladder as well. So it is definitely doable with those types. The question is, can I do it? So that is why I'm doing a challenge right now. And currently I have a quite wide variety of teams. These aren't all the teams that I used though, of course, because I did use a couple of my old psychic teams, but I didn't put them in here. But yeah, I'm not going to go through all these teams because I didn't really end up using all these, and this is just a sample poison. So yeah, I'll just show you the teams that I used in the replays that got me the most wins. Because a lot of these this normal team was actually pretty decent as well, but I stopped using it because I was not having a ton of success with it. I think I'll have better success with it the higher up I go, rather than in the lower tiers, or in the lower ladder, because in the lower ladder it's very easy for a team like this to just get abused. But in higher ladder, people will respect, or there won't be as much stuff to directly counter a lot of my Pokemon. I also just need to learn how to use this team a lot better as well, so yeah, there's that. But I will instead be showing the Rock team that I've been using, and I'll be showing the Psychic team that I've been using. It's not this one, by the way. It's called Bad Side for a reason. But yeah, let's show you the Rock team. So a lot of people are already going to be kind of put off by this team because of the presence of Garganacl. But let me explain my thought process here. So Garganacl, along with Tyranitar Sand, is a very good specially defensive wall, capable of taking powerful special hits from pretty much anything. It's not quite Blissey in terms of special hit-taking power, because after all, it does still take super effective damage from a ton of types. But it is still good enough that it can take a relatively good amount of hits while still chipping down some of those threats with Salt Cure, especially those water special attacking threats. Of course, not Keldeo, of course, and also not Urshifu because Urshifu's a physical attacker, but if it gets enough iron defense boosts with Body Press, it can actually become a very good late game threat. Or not really late game, but it's a very good mid game threat with enough setup. And generally, I just wanted this team to have a somewhat decent special pivot that wasn't Tyranitar, because heavily relying on Tyranitar as my only special pivot would be very detrimental to my team, because he is also our sand setter, and sand is very important for our team because it is the only thing that allows the team to have very good special bulk against the majority of types. It helps Garganacl doubly so because it's building special defense, but having that special defense for stuff like Ogerpon, for example, helps it survive Hydro Pumps that it otherwise wouldn't if it has its sturdy broken. So that's why I find it very important to preserve Tyranitar's HP as much as possible. But yeah, Salt Cure, Iron Defense, Body Press, Recover, very standard stuff. This set does pretty decently against certain Gholdengo variants as well. So Choice Scarf Gholdengo, for example, due to Purifying Salt, basically making it so that ghost damage doesn't deal as much to you. It means that he is forced to use his other stab, which is Make It Rain. and Make It Rain lowers his special attack, and if he has at least 2 turns of sand, that means that Garganacl can definitely wall it. If it's Choice Scarf, it's definitely getting walled, and you have to force him out, because he'll be taking 25% from Salt Cure. And, sorry, excuse me. Sorry about that again. Once again, I am sick, so it is very annoying what I have to deal with, but yeah. Yeah, but Garganacl is good against the Gholdengo because of what I mentioned before. It can also catch some things on the switch because it does bait in a lot of physical attackers, so if you bait in something like Excadrill, or if you bait in something like, maybe not Corviknight, but definitely another like physical attacking steel type, you can just get a Salt Cure on it and then switch out. Granted, you don't have a lot of great switch-ins, but thankfully we do have Rhyperior for that, so they'll at least take a decent amount of chip damage from that alone. Now, on to the next Pokemon. We have Tyranitar. Tyranitar kind of just does the same thing it always does. Got the Heavy Slam, Low Kick, Knockoff, and Stealth Rock. You might be wondering why I have Stealth Rock on this when I have Kleavor. Sometimes Kleavor can't really get that Stone Axe off, and sometimes I might need to preserve him for a specific thing, so that's why I have Stealth Rock on here, just in case. But yeah, nothing really to note here with a Tyranitar set, it's just a very standard set. So let's move on to Ogerpon. Ogerpon's also an incredibly standard set. I did experiment a little bit with this and tried to use a more defensive Spiky Shield variant, but I ended up not liking it and just ended up going with the offensive variant instead because I found that it was just better at getting through the ladder. Or getting through the lower ladder, I should say. But yeah. It is definitely a pretty solid Pokemon on Rock. It's one of the best Pokemon on Rock, obviously. But yeah, it just kind of does Horn Leech is actually very important because you do want this thing Sturdy to be active pretty much at all times. And Horn Leech is the only stab move you have that can allow you to do that. Especially if you come in on rocks, which can happen very often since you don't have hazard removal, so yeah. Our only access to hazard removal would have been Colossal, but Colossal's very hard to fit on a team like this. Because I would have had to either give up Garganacl, or I would have had to give up Rhyperior, and I don't really want to give up either of those guys. For obvious reasons, so yeah. But yeah, that's it for Ogerpon. Again, very standard set. Kleavor is the standard Choice Scarf set. I tried to see if Sheer Force was better, but Sheer Force does hit harder, but the moves that Kleavor specifically has access to makes it so that Sharpness is actually just, by the numbers, way more powerful than it. Which is really unfortunate because I wanted to see if Sheer Force could actually hit harder because I would have used Choice Scarf Arcanine instead. And then used Life Orb, Kleavor. That hits really hard, but unfortunately its hardest hitting Sheer Force move is Rock Slide, and it just doesn't do as much as I would want. Even though it's a 1.6 times boost versus the 1.5, Sharpness is just generally better with a lot of your coverage moves. Is the main issue. So Night Slash is just better. I think Aerial Ace is also boosted by it, but yeah, it's generally just better to use Sharpness, which is the conclusion I came to. But yeah, it's also decent at being a Choice Scarfer as well. It checks a lot of stuff. It's also very good in the Ghost matchup as well. Yeah, not really a ton, so just very unfortunate I couldn't use Sheer Force on this instead. But what can you do? Alright, next we have Choice Band Arcanine. So Choice Band Arcanine is definitely not unusual, but it's definitely not something that is commonly run. The reason I decided to use Choice Band on this set is because we just needed someone that could hit very hard. So I opted to do it with Arcanine since it has access to Rock Head, and it has some very high-powered stab moves like Head Smash and Flare Blitz. And if you've ever used a Pokemon like Hawlucha before, you know that high-powered stat boosts are very good, even if your Pokemon has a somewhat paltry attack stat, such as this Pokemon, for example. So, and we can do this all without having to suffer from the recoil that these moves have. We still have to worry about Head Smash's accuracy, but in general, the risk is definitely worth the reward. Even though you won't be clicking Head Smash on this thing a lot of the time. Most of the time you'll probably be using Flare Blitz, because Cleavor is probably hitting most of the targets you're Head Smashing. But Extreme Speed is also a very important thing to have. It allows us to have a semblance of speed control against some of the faster Pokemon in the metagame that are also really frail. So if we have a weakened Sneasler on the enemy team, usually that would be a big threat to this team. But if we chip it down enough with the rest of our Pokemon, we can just have Arcanine just clean it up, and it's no issue. But yeah, that is the goal of this Arcanine set. And last of all, we have Rhyperior. Rhyperior is actually really, really solid. This mod has always been kind of really solid on Rock, and so, for some reason always gets a little bit underrated. I think it's because it doesn't really do so many explosive things on the type, but essentially Rhyperior still has like a ridiculously high attack stat. 140 is very good, and it has really good defenses and HP, or not defenses, just defense and HP. Like, these two numbers are actually really, really good. And you have the solid rock ability on top of that, so it actually can take a ridiculous amount of hits on the physical side really well. And you pair that with Sand, helping with the special defense for a bit, and suddenly you've got something that can take almost anything at least once, which is very good on a type like Rock, where you're littered with weaknesses. But yeah, the main thing Rhyperior is here to do is to stop stuff like Caesar from completely rampaging through your team, and also just be like a check to most of the physical attackers in the tier. There's a few that it doesn't completely stop, but yeah. Also, we prefer Smackdown over a different move due to the fact that Smackdown basically allows you to punish stuff on the switch. So if they decide to go into Corviknight, or if they decide to go into a different flying type like Landorus or something like that, you can just smack them down and they can't avoid you. Same with Levitators like Latios and Latias. And it basically allows you to just play a little bit into them. It's also a 100% accurate physical rock move, which, believe me, those are not easy to come by, so that's always nice as well. And Ice Punch and Fire Punch are Fire Punch is for checking Caesar specifically, and Ice Punch is for those ground flying types, but it can also help against grass types as well. So yeah, that's this team. And this team has done me pretty well so far in the low ladder. Currently, my account is in the 1400s. I haven't gotten to the 1600s yet, but this is just a little status report, just to let you guys know where I'm at right now. I'll show you guys the other team. Give me a sec. So here is the other team that I have. This is the Terrain Cheese, as I like to call it. And the reason I call it Terrain Cheese is because this team is only good at doing one specific thing, and it's just cheesing matchups. I know before, if you've watched this channel before, you know that there are just some types, or some archetypes that are seen as cheese, or matchup fishy. Rain is typically one of the ones that are called that, as is Fire, but Psychic Terrain, or Psy-Spam Psychic, is definitely one of those as well. Because if your team has very little ways to deal with it, or if you lose your specific Psychic check, you definitely hard lose to a team like this. This is based off of a really old team from Black Mat, I believe, and it's still a really solid team. I still think this team does need a few edits to make it really good, but currently as it is, it's been serving me pretty well. So I might be able to get to the 1500s just by using the Steam, but maybe I'll have to edit it a bit just to see. But yeah, this team is pretty standard. We have Bronzong, which serves as our Excadrill check and allows us to not instantly lose. Now, obviously, we're talking about a regular ground Excadrill, not the steel Excadrill that runs Mold Breaker. This obviously doesn't check that, but we have Gardevoir and Armorogue for that specific Excadrill, so we should be fine in that regard. But yeah, it also just sets rocks. It can cause paralysis with a Body Slam, because for some reason it doesn't get Thunder Wave. And yeah, that's pretty much all it does. This mon's move pool is very, very limited, but it just does the one job I need it to do very well. Now, unfortunately, I would actually put Ice Spinner on this thing, but as you can see, the secondary effect for Ice Spinner is to end the effect of terrain, and on a Psy-Spam team like this, you do not want to have that at all. I've tried to play around it, but it's genuinely just impossible. So, it's just better to use this, to not use it, than to try and play around it. It's not worth it. We have Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam generally pretty good because Bronzong is a decently heavy mon. You will see that it will be like 80 or 60 BP against quite a few different notably heavy Pokemon, but generally I think that you should be fine. And it'll still check the things that you need to check, like Flutter Mane and the like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Body Press, as I said before, it's here to counter Excadrill on the ground. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Physically defensive. Yeah, just a very chill Bronzong set. I still think this mon is decent on Psychic. It's definitely not the meta-defining Pokemon, but on teams like this that just want to basically cheese certain matchups, this mon kind of does everything you kind of want to do. So yeah. Indeedee here is our terrain setter. Now, I was thinking about using the Trick Room variant of this set, but I decided against it, mainly because I haven't gotten super used to doing such a variant yet. And I also think that after I made that video on Wafflecopter's team, a lot of people are going to be expecting that stuff. I'm not saying that the team doesn't work once people know about it, because obviously Wafflecopter was very notable on the ladder for being the one person using Psychic. So yeah, I would be aware. I just didn't think I would have as much of an advantage, mainly because people were just aware, and I'm not as good at using that team as Wafflecopter is, so I decided to stay with what I was familiar with and to stick with the regular standard Terrain Extender set. I'm honestly surprised that the Terrain Extender set isn't like a meta set at all yet, considering how it enables Psy-Spam teams like this, and also Wafflecopter's team to a lesser extent. But yeah. This mon is definitely really solid at getting that terrain up, and it can also slightly abuse it as well with Expanding Force and Dazzling Gleam. It's not a very strong mon, but Healing Wish is also very important, because you might think, oh, it's really risky to get rid of your terrain extender mon, but sometimes this thing is going to die regardless if you put it back in. Like sometimes it survives a hit at like 2% HP and there's rocks down and you can't get rid of him, so you just have to H-Wish, and then you can go into one of your powerful breakers and basically heal them for free. If you've used Latios, it's a very similar concept, except you're losing your Psychic Terrain user. So you can still play a bit recklessly with some of your mons, but a lot of your mons will just shatter if you play with them wrong, so yeah, you have to be a little bit careful with that. Aside from that though, yeah, it's really solid. Next we got Armorogue. So Armorogue gets dropped a lot nowadays for other mods, but I still think that Armorogue's niche against Steel specifically makes it so that I can't ignore it. So yeah, I opt to use this instead. I might do Armor Cannon instead of Flamethrower in the future, just because Armor Cannon does have more power attached to it. Only issue is that it has less PP, and having less PP in a metagame filled with pressure style Pokemon is definitely unideal. So that's the only reason I currently still use Flamethrower, because once I get to the higher Elos, there will be a lot of flying teams, and if I want this thing to be useful against those teams, it needs to not run out of its primary stab that quickly. Because even though it is 120 base power and it's very powerful, if it doesn't have a +2 boost, it's probably not killing it, anything that it hits. So yeah, you have to be a bit careful with that. But yeah, that's it for Umbreon. It's the standard, or this is the standard set. At least I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, it's not. This isn't the standard set, but it's the this Endure set is actually relatively decent, and Expanding Force allows you to use Indeed's thing. This thing is extremely powerful with Expanding Force and a Weakness Policy boost. And Focus Blast allows you to hit other Steel types that aren't affected, mainly Heatran. Because if you get a Weakness Policy boost with Heatran as well, then you can just straight up KO it, I'm pretty sure. So you could use Orsphere for the accuracy, but I'm pretty sure you don't KO Heatran, or at least especially defensive variants of Heatran that well. So yeah, that's it for that. Gardevoir. So Gardevoir is on this team specifically to deal with rain. So if you have a Barraskewda that's about to face down your team and you have Terrain plus Gardevoir, you can just put Gardevoir in and then it just KOs the Barraskewda because it actually outspeeds it in the rain. Let me make sure it still does that actually. Oh, this specific set doesn't outspeed it in the rain. I'm actually not sure why it's still modest. But yeah, if this had a plus speed nature, it would guaranteed outspeed Barraskewda in the rain. Because Choice Scarf plus Choice Scarf with Gardevoir's base speed is typically it's 424, I think it is. It might be a different number, but what's important to know is that it's higher than Barraskewda's base speed. So if you tag along Swift Swim with it, which it traces with its ability, then it's automatically faster. So you can just outspeed Barraskewda in the raid while donning a Choice Scarf, and you can just be spamming Expanding Force, because a lot of raid teams usually don't have a way to deal with Psy Spam. That being said, Hisuian Samurott is very common on water teams, so you do have to be careful with that specifically. But even then, a Gardevoir is strong enough with just Moonblast that you can actually hit ridiculously hard with it. So you don't even have to spam Expanding Force, you could just use Moonblast and it'll still likely KO Barraskewda. And you could probably hit something really hard on the switch too. But yeah. It causes 50-50s, which are very annoying for the water user. So yeah. There's that as well. It also can do the same thing with Excadrill in the sand. It can take Sand Rush from Excadrill and outspeed it with that as well, kill it with Focus Blast. And Trick allows it to mess up certain walls that might give this team a bit of trouble, like for example, Alolan Muck on poison teams could get messed up by this set specifically, but you need to be careful when using it because you need to make sure that Sneasler can still be dealt with. But yeah, that is it for Gardevoir. Very handy mon on a team like this. Now for Hoopa Unbound, this is the Assault Vest set that allows it to be incredibly especially defensive. It basically allows it to take any special hit that we need it to, namely from Ghost types. So with this thing taking hits from Ghost types, we can just knock them off, get rid of their item, or we can use Psychic, Focus Blast, or T-Bolt. Now, I should use Expanding Force on this, but I actually prefer Psychic due to the special defense drop. And Expanding Force is like a low-key overkill on this thing, but I might still end up putting it on later on if I see that it's a bit better. Look, I probably should do that, but we'll see. I wanted to try and do a different eject pack set with Hoopa Unbound, but I find that Assault Vest is just way too handy in being an emergency blanket check, so yeah, that's it for that. And Gallade, of course, is the Choice Scarf set. I'm not using the Assault Vest set because I have Hoopa Unbound doing that for me already. So instead I decided to go for Choice Scarf, and it allows it to blanket check a lot of different, especially defensive walls. And once again, it is extremely powerful with sharpness and its stat moves, so yeah, there is that. But yeah, that's it for the team reviews. So I'm gonna go clean up real quick, and then we can get straight into the replays. Alright, we're back, and now we have this. Now we have the replays. So I'm gonna go through these really quickly because, to be honest, replays at this rank aren't really worth reviewing that hard, but we can still just take a decent look at how these teams have been functioning and what they do. So first we have this replay against a semi-standard dragon team. Just Noivern is a bit weird. Bronzong, we lead off with that, get the Stealth Rock off. Also, do note that I don't really play to my best extent on ladder. I typically do tend to click buttons a lot. But yeah, indeed he comes in, I encore it to get either Hoopa or Armorogan, most likely. Yeah, so we get Hoopa in, we do get burnt, I believe, yeah. Yeah, I knock off the Kudra's leftovers. I could have done a lot more damage to it if I didn't get burnt, but it's whatever. So, just used in a Focus Blast. We do end up KOing it. In comes Gladios. Gladios isn't really doing all that to Hoopa because of the Assault Vest. Unfortunately, if I wasn't burned, Gladios does get KO'd there, but I end up swapping out of Hoopa back into Bronzong. Because I know Bronzong won't take damage. Now, unfortunately, Bronzong cannot do anything useful here, unlike most other walls. So I try to go for a Body Slam para, but I did not get it. I put NDD back in, but unfortunately the Noivern defog does get rid of my terrain, so I head back into Bronzong. And Dragapult comes in. I end up sacking Bronzong to make sure that I can get... Because right now I'm trying to get a Healing Wish off, but I realized that it's not going to be worth it. I wasn't sure if he was actually choiced or not, so I didn't try to go into hard Gardevoir there. But yeah, he goes into Arcaludon. Arcaludon is not known for special hit taking power, so Gardevoir easily 2-hit KOs. Noivern gets KO'd. Como also gets KO'd. And yeah, he just kind of loses. So it is what it is in that regard. But yeah, that would be it for that replay. But yeah, that's just an example of, I didn't even need to use a Psychic move. Gardevoir's typing, it was just very nice against the dragon specifically. And especially against his dragon team. So once Goodra went down, I was just able to do whatever I wanted. So yeah. Let's move on to the next replay. Which, this is the rock team. Might have slightly different sets, but yeah. Really Cleavor, instantly getting that Stealth Rocks, that's a very lucky crit. So yeah, I put the Stone Axe down. We see the +1 speed from the Rapid Spin. Poltergeist does do a ton of damage to me, but it does not kill. So I just Stone Axe again, and I get the rocks down. We see the Saralegi Shadow Snake. I did want to predict that, but I wasn't completely sure. So he goes to do Bitter Blade, but it does literally 0 damage to Rhyperior, because think about how defensive that thing is. Alright, here comes Goldango. I put in T-Tar. Focus Blast does get the full KO on my T-Tar, but here comes Garganacl. Garganacl is able to take the Focus Blast, but we get the Salt Cure off, which should weaken it enough. I stay in, hoping that Focus Blast misses, and it does. Because it's not called Focus Blast, it's called Focus Miss. He misses again, but I obviously recover thinking that it's going to hit. But yeah, that's just an example of what I'm talking about when I say I like using Garganacl on Goldango. Now, it is unfortunate because it could have very well defeated me there if the Focus Blast hit 2 times, but it still low-key got the job done because I would have just put in Arcanine afterwards, and then KO'd it. But yeah, this was a slightly scary situation because I didn't want to swap into Arcanine immediately because Arcanine is slower than this thing. I thought that maybe I could stall it out, but I wasn't completely sure. So this does go on for a while. It slowly dies, but I do end up losing Garganacl. But the Mimikyu gets low enough that I'm actually able to KO it. And then Fluttermane comes out. Fluttermane uses Shadow Ball. I put in Rhyperior, and Rhyperior is able to take the Shadow Ball, and I just use Earthquake and shatter the Fluttermane. And just like that, it's gone. So, yeah. Once again, that's just an example of how Rock is able to do stuff, and the Goldingo example, as I mentioned before, that is just how it is able to handle it. So, yeah. Let's move on to the last replay. We got Ice versus Psychic, and this is against an MRT player, so actually a decent player. Because, yes, just as my luck has it, there's another Monotype ladder tour that is happening. I don't even know how to join it, so yeah. But yeah, this is a somewhat decent Ice team. It has Dugong on it, which is this Dugong actually was kind of a problem with this match. But yeah, not much thought, because if you notice about that Ice team, it does not have a good Psychic type switch in. So funnily enough, the Dugong is actually his best switch in and actually does a pretty decent job of that. But yeah, they go for the taunt first. I immediately assumed he's going to do that, so I just click Heavy Slam without even thinking. But yeah, Indeedee gets outsped, so I know... I guess Indeedee didn't get outsped there, but yeah. That was a very hard read for me, because I wasn't sure if he was going to swap moves or not. But yeah, Armorug now has like a couple turns where it can do whatever it wants. I should have Focus Blasted here, but I didn't want to potentially risk just not doing any damage at all because of Focus Blast accuracy. So I just went for not doing that. So yeah, we go for an Expanding Force here. Fortunately, we lose our Choice Scarf. But we're still strong enough that we can just use Expanding Force a couple more times. Kyurem comes out and will be able to KO us. But we know Kyurem is special, so we put in Hoopa Unbound. Hoopa does a ton of damage to that -1. Here comes Kyurem again, but we know that it's special and not mixed, so it does the Draco Meteor and it doesn't even do half of our HP. Another Draco drops down. And we do get the 2-hit KO Psychic. And just like that, the game's over. Now this could have been really scary if he ended with higher HP, but yeah. And yeah, that would be it for that. And yeah, that was a 1500s player that got defeated by Spam. So yeah, this is basically what I've been doing. Now, I have been sick for the past couple of days, so it's going to be a bit difficult for me to try and keep grinding. But I should hopefully get to 1500s by next week, and then I'll have an update for you guys about that. But yeah, that is what I'm doing in the meantime. I'll see if I can make another educational video or team review. If you guys have any teams that you want me to review, I'll review them here. Just make sure to send replays as well, because I can't just look at a team and talk about it. Because I could do that, but that's not entertaining for the viewers right now. So yeah, if you want me to review your team, just send it to me either on YouTube comments, or you can contact me on Discord. Name is the same on Discord as it is here. And yeah, that'll be it for today's video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.